Hi everyone, my name is Sophia. Today, I want to share something very personal. Something that completely changed the way I look at my family and my own boundaries. It's about my house, my life, and how sometimes even the people you love the most can misunderstand you. All just because you dared to say no. It all started last year. I was enjoying a quiet evening in my $515,000 lake house. I had bought this home entirely with my savings, and every single dollar felt like a piece of my independence. This house wasn't just walls and furniture. It was my freedom, my sanctuary, my little piece of peace in a chaotic world. And for once, I was proud of what I had achieved on my own. Then out of nowhere, I found out that my parents had secretly promised my sister that she could move in here. Yes, my own $515,000 lake house. Just imagine. You've worked hard, you've built your life, and suddenly your family assumes your personal space is theirs to use. That's exactly how I felt, completely blindsided. At first, I thought it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe they assumed I would be okay with it because I've always tried to put family first. But they completely overlooked one crucial thing. This house wasn't just a physical space. It was my mental peace, my hard-earned independence. And no one had the right to assume I would automatically say yes. So I did what I thought was the simplest thing. I told them politely, "Mom, Dad, I'm not comfortable with this. This is my personal space, and I need to respect that for my own well-being." I thought they would understand. I really did. But what happened next completely shocked me. They called me cruel. Can you imagine? I was being labeled cruel for protecting my own home, my own peace. I sat there, speechless, trying to process their words. How could standing up for myself suddenly become a bad thing? It was like the ground had been pulled out from under me, and the people I trusted the most had turned against me for having boundaries. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking, am I wrong? Should I just let it go? Maybe I'm being selfish. But deep down, I knew I wasn't wrong. I had every right to say no. I had every right to protect my sanctuary, and yet their words kept echoing in my mind, making me question my own judgment. The next morning, I tried to explain calmly. I love both of you and I love my sister. But this is my house. It's where I recharge, where I feel safe. I can't just hand over that space because it's convenient for someone else. But they weren't ready to listen. They were hurt, offended, and convinced I was being unreasonable. My heart sank. Over the next few weeks, the tension grew. Every conversation became an argument. Every smile felt forced. Even my sister, who had no idea her parents had promised her this, started acting strangely around me. She didn't mean to hurt me, but the situation created a wedge between us. And I hated it. I hated that my home, the place I loved most, had suddenly become a battleground. I realized something very important during this time. Protecting your boundaries doesn't make you cruel. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. Loving yourself doesn't mean you love others any less. It's just society and even our families have this expectation that you should always say yes, always sacrifice, always bend. But where does that leave you? What about your own peace? So I made a decision. I would not back down. I would calmly, firmly, and respectfully assert my boundaries. My house, my rules. I started documenting my thoughts, my reasons, even my feelings about the situation. Writing it down helped me clarify my own perspective, helped me see that I was not being cruel. I was being wise, responsible, and self-respecting. I also reached out to a few close friends for advice. I explained everything, and you know what they told me? "Sophia, you're right. You've worked so hard for that house. You deserve to enjoy it. It's okay to say no." That small reassurance was like a breath of fresh air. Finally, I felt a little strength returning, a little courage to face my family without fear. The day came when I had to sit my parents down for a proper conversation. It wasn't easy. My heart was racing. My hands were shaking. I could see in their eyes that they were expecting me to break, to cry, to apologize for standing up for myself. But this time I was ready. "Mom, Dad, I know you thought promising the house to my sister would be fine, but it isn't. This house is my personal space. It's where I feel safe. I can't compromise that. I love you. I love my sister. But I also need to love myself. And part of that is protecting this home. There was silence. And then, finally, they started to understand. Not completely, but enough to pause, reflect, and see my perspective. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. And that day, I realized something very powerful. Standing up for yourself doesn't mean you don't care. It means you value yourself enough to protect what matters most. Looking back, this experience taught me so much. I learned that family dynamics can be complicated, that love doesn't always come with understanding, that sometimes even those closest to you can misinterpret your intentions. But I also learned that my peace, my boundaries, and my mental health are non-negotiable, and I would never compromise them again. And here's the thing. The story doesn't end there. My sister's reaction, my parents' next steps, the way I handled the following weeks, it all became a part of my growth, my resilience. But that's a story for another day. For now, I just want you to remember this. It's okay to say no. It's okay to protect your space. It's okay to love yourself first. Because if you don't, no one else will. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the hardest words you say are the ones that save you the most. Hi everyone, it's Sophia again. If you've listened to part 1 of my story, you know about the situation with my parents and my lake house. The one I worked so hard to buy for myself. You already know how my parents promised my sister that she could move into my house without even asking me, and how they called me cruel when I said no. Well, today I want to share what happened after that, because things didn't just end there. In fact, they got way more complicated. The tension builds. After that conversation, I thought maybe things would settle down. I thought my parents would need a little time to process, and then they'd let it go. But I was wrong. Over the next few weeks, the tension just kept growing. Every phone call with them felt heavy. Every family dinner turned into awkward silence. My mom would barely look at me sometimes, and my dad, well, he wasn't angry, but he carried this quiet disappointment that cut even deeper than words. And then there was my sister. Poor Emily. She didn't even ask for this. She had no idea our parents had made this promise on her behalf until I said no. At first she told me, "Sophia, it's fine. I'll figure something out." But the damage was done. The fact that I refused made her feel like I didn't care about her struggles. She was going through a rough patch. Her lease was ending. Her job wasn't paying much and she needed stability. I understood that, I really did. But I couldn't just hand her my house. That wasn't the solution. Still, the guilt started eating at me. I kept asking myself, am I being selfish? Should I sacrifice my comfort to help her out? Isn't that what family does? One Sunday, I went over to my parents' house for dinner. I almost canceled because I knew it would be tense, but I forced myself to go. As soon as I sat down, I felt it, the heavy atmosphere, the subtle looks, the silence that wasn't really silent. My mom finally broke it. She said, "Sophia, sometimes in life, we have to think about others before ourselves. Your sister needs help. Don't you think it's your responsibility to support her right now?" My heart dropped. I could feel the guilt tightening around me like chains. I said, "Mom, I love Emily and I want to help her. But giving up my house is not the way. I worked years for that home. It's not just a building, it's where I feel safe." But she didn't want to hear it. She sighed, shook her head, and whispered, "I don't know what happened to you. You used to be so generous." That broke me inside. Because I am generous. I've always been there for my family, but suddenly one boundary made me selfish in their eyes. I barely touched my food that night. I left early, got into my car, and just sat there in the driveway crying. I felt torn between two impossible choices, betray myself or betray my family. And either way, I would lose. A few days later, Emily called me. Her voice was small, hesitant. She said, "Sophia, I know this whole thing is stressing you out. I don't want to fight, but you need to understand. Mom and Dad made me believe it was okay. I thought I had a place to go. And when you said no, I felt abandoned." That hit me hard. Abandoned? By me? I never wanted her to feel that way. I explained, Emily, you're my sister. I love you. If you need help, I'll support you financially. I'll help you find a better apartment. I'll even co-sign if you need, but I can't give up my lake house. It's not just about space. It's about me, my boundaries, my life. She was quiet for a long moment before whispering, I get it, but it still hurts. And then she hung up. That silence on the other end of the phone stayed with me for days. I knew she wasn't angry, just hurt. And in some ways that was even worse, because I could handle anger, but disappointment weeks turned into months, and the pressure didn't stop. My parents kept hinting, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, that I should reconsider. Every family gathering became an emotional battlefield, and I started noticing the toll it was taking on me. Anxiety, sleepless nights, second-guessing myself constantly. I couldn't enjoy my own home anymore, because all I felt inside it was guilt and conflict. The breaking point came one evening. I was sitting on my porch, watching the sunset over the lake, trying to calm my mind, when my dad showed up unannounced. He sat down next to me and said, Sophia, I'm not here to fight. I just want you to think about the kind of person you want to be remembered as. Do you want to be the daughter who turned her back on her sister? That sentence crushed me, because deep down I feared exactly that. I didn't want to be remembered as selfish. I didn't want to be the villain in my own family's story. But something inside me snapped that night. I looked at him and said, Dad, I've always been there for you, for Mom, for Emily, always, but this is my house, my one safe place, and I will not give it up. If that makes me selfish in your eyes, then so be it. But I refuse to lose myself just to please you. My voice was shaking, but it was firm. For the first time, I wasn't asking for their approval. I was claiming my right to my own life. My dad just stared at me. I could see the conflict in his eyes. Pride, hurt, confusion. Finally, he stood up and said, I guess I don't know you anymore. And then he left. And I broke down completely after that. That night, as I sat crying in my living room, something shifted inside me. I realized I couldn't keep living like this, torn between guilt and boundaries. I had to make peace with my decision, whether my family accepted it or not, and I had to find another way to support Emily without sacrificing myself. So I did. I helped her search for apartments. I called contacts, found her affordable places near her job, even offered to help with the first few months of rent. At first, she resisted, still feeling hurt. But slowly, she began to see that my no to the house wasn't a no to her. It was just me protecting my own sanity while still loving her. And eventually, she moved into a nice little apartment, not as big as my lake house, but cozy, safe, and hers. And when I visited her one weekend, she hugged me and said, Thank you, Sophia. I get it now. You weren't shutting me out. You were just standing up for yourself. And honestly, I admire that. I cried when she said that. Because after all the pain, finally she understood. After Emily moved into her new apartment, things calmed down a little. For the first time in months, I could sit in my lake house without feeling guilt crashing down on me. I could breathe again. I thought maybe, just maybe, the storm had passed. But the truth is, peace in a family doesn't come overnight. My parents still weren't fully speaking to me. Every phone call was short. Every conversation felt forced. They didn't come visit my lake house anymore, even when I invited them. And deep down, that hurt me more than I wanted to admit. I kept telling myself, you did the right thing, Sophia. You're not cruel. You're not selfish. You're strong. But some nights, when I sat alone on my porch, I couldn't help but wonder if strength was really worth the loneliness. One Saturday afternoon, months later, I decided to invite my parents over. I wanted to clear the air to try again. I cooked their favorite meal, set the table beautifully, and told myself, tonight, we're going to talk and we're going to heal. When they arrived, I hugged them, even though they felt stiff in my arms. We sat down to eat. At first, it was small talk, work, weather, random news. Then my dad put down his fork and looked straight at me. He said, Sophia, do you realize how much you've hurt us? Do you know how many nights your mother, Cried because she felt like she lost her daughter? The word stung. I swallowed hard and said, Dad, I know this whole situation hurt all of us. But I didn't do this to push you away. I did this to protect myself. I love you both, but I can't keep sacrificing myself just to make everyone else happy. My mom's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, We just wanted to believe you'd always put family first. And in that moment, I felt the weight of years of always saying yes, years of always bending. And I finally spoke the truth that had been locked inside me. The truth I needed to say. I told them, I do put family first. I always have, but I've realized something. Putting family first doesn't mean erasing myself. If I give up my happiness, my peace, my sanity, what kind of daughter would I really be? Would you rather have a broken Sophia who says yes to everything, or a strong Sophia who sets boundaries and still went silent? My parents looked at me as if they were seeing me for the first time. And maybe they were, because for the first time, I wasn't the obedient daughter. I was an adult woman who knew her worth. Just then, Emily, my sister, arrived. I had invited her too, hoping she could help bridge the gap. She walked in, hugged me, and said to our parents, Mom, Dad, you need to stop. Sophia didn't abandon me. She saved me. She showed me that boundaries are okay. If she had let me move in here, I wouldn't have learned to stand on my own 2 feet. I wouldn't have my own apartment. I wouldn't have grown. I looked at her stunned. Emily, my sweet little sister who had once felt abandoned, was now defending me. She continued, You raised us to be strong, independent women. That's exactly what Sophia is being. Why can't you be proud of her instead of punishing her for it? I will never forget that moment. My parents sat there speechless. For the first time, it wasn't just me fighting for myself. Emily was standing beside me, showing them that my decision wasn't cruelty. It was love. Love for myself and even love for her. Something changed that night. My mom reached across the table, took my hand, and whispered, Maybe we didn't see it clearly. Maybe we were too focused on what we thought was right. Tears rolled down her cheeks, and for the first time in months, I felt my mother's warmth again. My dad leaned back, sighed deeply, and said, I guess I didn't realize how much you've grown up. Maybe I was holding on to the old version of you, the one who always agreed. I'm sorry, Sophia. Those words, I'm sorry, they healed something inside me that had been broken for so long. After that night, things slowly started to improve. My parents didn't fully change overnight, but they tried. They began visiting my lake house again, not with entitlement, but with respect. Our conversations became lighter, warmer, and most importantly, they started seeing me as an adult, not just their daughter. Emily thrived in her new apartment. She decorated it beautifully, found joy in having her own space, and even told me, Sophia, you taught me that independence isn't selfish, it's empowering. Hearing that made every tear, every fight, every sleepless night worth it. So what did this whole journey teach me? It taught me that love without boundaries is not love, it's control. It taught me that saying no is sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and for the people around you. And it taught me that no matter how hard it is, standing up for yourself will always be worth it in the end. For months I thought I was cruel. I thought I was selfish. But now I know the truth. I was strong. Strong enough to protect my peace. Strong enough to face disappointment. Strong enough to love my family, even when they didn't understand me. And that strength changed everything. Today, when I sit on the porch of my lake house and watch the sunset, I no longer feel guilt. I feel peace. My parents and I are closer now, because they know the real me, not the version of me who always says yes, but the one who has the courage to say no when it matters. And Emily, she's thriving, and our bond is stronger than ever. We laugh about it now sometimes, how a house almost tore us apart, but ended up bringing us closer than ever. So if you're listening to this, I want you to remember one thing. Protecting your boundaries doesn't make you cruel. It makes you whole. And when you're whole, you can love others more fully than ever before. This is the end of my story. Thank you for listening. And I hope, wherever you are, you find the strength to choose yourself too.